Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm GoldenGad, and if you haven't met me before, I do Pokemon card content as well as some esports stuff with League of Legends, and also now most recently doing some One Piece TCG as well. And today we have a bit of a different video since this will be a Pokemon trading card game market discussion on basically the state of the market and talking about how crazy it's become in a pretty short amount of time, and how I have some fears and kind of warnings coming for the future based off the past. Stuff like this has happened before, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. Now, before we get into this, I should talk about my history in the scene. I did enter around the end of the Sun and Moon era in like 2019, around when Dragon Majesty released, so that Zinnia full art, most popularly for that set at the very least. And for me, that was a pretty good entry point. It was right around Team Up era, and Cosmic Eclipse is one of my favorite sets of all time. And you see the values of all those sets now. However, I went through that first boom of 2021, and I thought it was insane back then, and I think it's insane right now, and I think I had to leave the hobby then, and I think I'm gonna have to leave the hobby soon as well right now, just to make sure that it settles in just a little bit. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Either way, it all wraps around this one concept that I watched in a video recently from Atrioc, who is a marketer that used to work at Nvidia, and he used this concept called max stupid. Are we reaching max stupid? And this video is not really about, saying that we're past the line of no return. It's about saying, are we getting to max stupid? Are we just about to be there where things just become so absurd and people, the mass public is going to realize it and start pulling back? Let's just watch the clip. I think it speaks very well to the actual effect of this. So, here we go.
Called Max Stupid. It's about the times that come along in financial markets where it just feels like you can look around and spam question marks. Everybody just sort of looks around and says, wait a minute, what the hell are we doing?
Does that sound familiar? What the hell are we doing? We're fighting over Pokemon cards. Sets are being released at crazy prices. Cards are just being bought out. I'm not saying just by one individual. I'm saying they're just being bought out, the entire stock, till the price just increases to an egregious amount on a card that's not actually that rare, which we'll also see later. So, I'm just saying there are things that are happening right now that are just strange, and I can only lean on the one idea that everyone just thinks it's a ship that's rising. So let's keep watching.
In 1637,
1637. Just saying, 1637, let that settle in. That is a long time ago.
the Dutch ruled the world. They were the most powerful and prosperous economy in the world.
The most powerful and prosperous economy in the world. Does that sound like anything? I don't know. Maybe the most powerful and successful collecting hobby in the world right now? I mean, the numbers definitely back that up, but we'll see. Let's continue with the clip.
And they love tulips. Specifically, they started to love a certain kind of tulip. The broken tulip.
Okay.
Where it looked like they have flames on them.
Flames on them?
The pattern would break up and it looked like it would spark like this.
Okay, so let's take a look at that again. These tulips, right? You have a bunch of things on a piece of paper, printed. Well, in this case, they were drawn out, okay? That have different patterns on them. They feature different, kind of aspects of this tulip. And they're assigned a value, and this value goes up and down according to what the demand actually wants of it. But these are one of a kind. I will say that's one of a kind. So having them be traded around is definitely something a little bit unique. But doesn't this remind you of Pokemon cards? I mean, hollows, reverse hollows. You got your special promos, full arts, illustration rares, special illustration rares, all these types of cards, all with separate values, but really, they're just printed on a piece of paper. And you could say the same thing about currency, but that is regulated. Okay, this is purely based off of the buyer's market.
Like this. They realized these tulips were so valuable, everyone liked them, that if you bought a tulip and resold it later, you'd almost always make money.
Okay, let's just get straight onto the topic of, you know, the hype, the crazy amount of, hey, if you buy this, hold on to it. It'll go up to the moon. Everyone has to hold for a couple years, and when you finally are ready to sell your products, hey, guess what? Go and sell. Go and sell, you know? Have a great time. You're going to make a ton of money. You're going to be a millionaire just like me. This YouTuber, you know, I'm making a very big, broad generalization. Obviously, not everyone is going to be like that, but you've definitely seen these if you are and have been watching the videos that have been coming out lately. If you hold and invest into these products, say you're going to make better returns than the stock market. That was a very common thing. And, you know, that is true with some things, but trust me, some of the things that people are buying right now are not going to be 10, 20, 30 times what they, you know, advertise as. And there's already a huge upfront capital for this stuff. So let's continue.
Money. And this ship of fools continued for a whole 3 years.
3 years! And it's a ship of fools. I mean, that just proves it. At a certain point, the buyer is not going to want to buy. And we'll see that in just a little bit.
And it kept going up and up, and everyone started being happier and richer and richer and richer. And this tulip, most of all, the Viceroy tulip, was the most highly prized.
The most highly prized tulip, the Viceroy tulip. Does this sound familiar? We got your Charizards back in 2021. Now you have your Umbreons. Every Umbreon is going crazy price. Everyone's buying them out because guess what? Umbreon's now the most popular Pokemon in the world, apparently. Not really. Still not really. I guarantee you that. But it's the most valuable. It is the chase. It is the real grind to actually get these cards is that Umbreon. And, I mean, you'll see the absurd prices people paid for this Viceroy Tulip. And just think about it with that Umbreon VMAX, or not VMAX, well, the VMAX, yeah, from Evolving Skies, but also just the EX from Prismatic Evolutions.
Till at one point, somebody traded a single Viceroy tulip for 8 pigs, 4 oxen, 12 sheep, 24 tons of wheat, 48 tons of rye, 2 hogshead of wines, 4 barrels of beer, 2 tons of butter, 1,000 pounds of cheese, a silver drinking cup, a pack of cloves, a bed with a mattress, a bedding, and a ship. And then people looked around and said, maybe we've reached max stupid.
Yeah, I say
Stock traders got involved on the action. They started trading tulips. The price could only go up. The rage for tulips would last forever. But once they reached max stupid, all of a sudden it collapsed. People realized all the tulips they were buying on debt didn't make any sense. And suddenly the debts came due and nobody wanted to buy the tulips for a higher price and they had to sell the tulips to pay off the debts and the crash was imminent.
So, if you'd like to see more, definitely check out this video. I highly recommend it from Atrioc. One of my favorite videos that he's ever made, and I think it just illustrates the craziness of it all. But he talked about one thing in there, the stock market gets into the Pokemon cards. Yes, I think this is happening for sure. People who are burned by stocks or crypto, in this case, just fleeing over to Pokemon and seeing, hey, we can make some serious money here if we go out and find the product in the wild and try and resell it for 20, 30, 40% markup. We can potentially make money, and that, you know, we call those people scalpers. But scalpers are in every market. It's part of how it is. I mean, you could think of things like ticket sales. It's a pretty crucial portion of that. Is, hey, we got bots. We're gonna buy up all the product or all the tickets, and then we're gonna resell them for a crazy amount of money. So it's an expectation that there will be scalpers, but it feels like there's a lot more bad actors than normal now. But yeah, that's besides the point. Either way, it did crash. And I'm saying that maybe we might be headed there. So let's see some of the max stupid features that we're kind of seeing right now with this, you know, Costco shoppers brawl over Pokemon cards. Just for context, this is Blooming Waters. It's a $70 MSRP product. Okay? And people, well, first it pre-released early from Costco. And Costco just decided, hey, we just got the stock, let's just load it. Whereas, like, the actual official launch date of this product is February 7th. When Best Buy, Target, not sure if Target, but definitely Best Buy and GameStop have their stock to actually sell. And this released early, about a week ago, and just complete craziness occurred. I mean, watch this. This is a very famous clip. You've probably seen it. This guy in the green jacket's about to get smacked in the face. Right about now. Right in the face. Yep, elbow to the face. And, yeah, that's kind of what the state is. You know, they don't have limits on these products, so the demand is very high, and people are trying to get products for either scalping or their family. You know, you can't just say everything is scalper. Some people just truly have that type of demand and will fight for it. So either way, this is 2 boxes, and let's put this into perspective. Let's zoom out. How much is these boxes selling for right now? What do you guys think? It's about 110. It's selling for about 110 ish, and that's on like TCG Player. You can maybe get it for cheaper elsewhere. I guess actually TCG is probably 120 ish, and then you could maybe get it Facebook Marketplace 105, 110, and that you won't have to pay shipping because you'll just meet them in person. Now, here's the issue: you paid sales tax on that, which is 15%. Well, okay, that's very high. Could be 15% in some areas. Most areas about 8%. So 8% to 15%, you're paying taxes on that product. You already have lost maybe $7 from taxes on that product. That's a little bit high, maybe $5.50, $6 on sales tax. So guess what? You just bought it. Okay, that's $5.50. So now we're at about $75. Then you ship it. Let's say you actually do go through the process of shipping it. And Blooming Waters purposefully is a very weird shape. So shipping it is going to be probably $10 to $15 easily. And then you're making $20 on this product. Is it worth elbowing someone in the face for $20? I mean, I'm sure it is for some people, but not for me. It's just let me go fight for these products. Let me make 20. Obviously, if you sell a whole pack, like you get the case of 7, because I believe they're packaged in bunches of 7. Then you're able to make, $140. Yeah, and unfortunately, you can only dedicate this to one store. You made $140 off of maybe 5 hours of waiting in front of this Costco, and then elbowing someone in the face for it, maybe. It's just absurd. Just work a normal job at that point. It's about the same amount of economy. Either way, I get it. It's the hype. So, moving on. Sorry, I love it when it bugs. FOMO and hype. This is kind of the main topic of the video. Is this fear of missing out and the hype, If there's a chase card, it'll go up in value. You've seen it with the Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies, now sitting at around 1,500, maybe 2K, something like that. And, and also hype, you post a picture of a Pokemon card right now, and everyone's going to go out and go buy it because they're scared of the market just buying it out, which I can say actually does happen, and I have some examples of that very recently for that. But let's take a look at actual interest over time. This is something that some people bring up, but it kind of puts in perspective that yes, the Pokemon market is bigger than it's ever been. Okay, you could see here, this is the spike at 2021 right here, and this is when Logan Paul does all the craziness. But I mean, you'll see they announced a reprint around this era as well, and that's what really sank it all the way back down. Is just the flood of product into the market, and these lower prices just came in. This is not actually a price chart, but trust me, when you look at other products, this is about the price scale it followed. Some hype towards the end of Sword and Shield era before we head into Scarlet Violet, which slowly but surely is back up all the way to higher than it was in 2021, which is very crucial. So that yes, there might be more buyers than before, but also there could just be the one spike of everyone fighting over all this product, and Prismatic Evolutions being the perfect storm with Surging Sparks releasing and seeing a lot of value, which I believe is around this period of time here. So this first peak here, and then Prismatic is this tall one here. So these sets drive up the cost, but you can even see Surging Sparks right afterwards, a big sharp decline in interest before Prismatic actually releases. So I think it's a little propped up much higher than it should be, based off of just how crazy the time is. When there's something to chase and something to follow, it becomes much easier to say, hey, I want to be a part of this. It's a cool time to be there. I want to open up these cards. So yeah, I definitely think you should not factor this out when you're talking about the market. Yes, there is probably more demand than 2021. And also 2021 was something that was more focused towards vintage than modern. Modern really wasn't that popular back then. Yes, there were a couple cards that kind of shot up the ranks, but really it was about that vintage Charizard and all the old first edition cards. But now it's kind of changed to be, hey, every modern set makes you money, so you should buy in, buy in. But that's just not the reality. So let's talk about Jesse and James. I can only show you a 1-year history of this card, but just know it follows a very, very similar pattern in 2021. When this card released, it was pretty popular, I'd say, but not, it was sitting at about $7. And it went up to maybe $30, $40 by around 2021 because of a couple people really pushing this card, and I'm pretty sure buying out a lot of the stock that was currently sitting. Because if you think about it. If you have $1,000 sitting and there's a card that's $10 and you could see on TCG Player, hey, there's only about 500 of these listed. It's about $7. I could corner the market here by just buying out 200 of them. Not a big deal to me. I just have $1,000 to play with. It doesn't even take that much capital to really corner a market. And that's what I think happened here. If you know this card, yes, it did get pushed as like an underrated card, and it's the perfect storm with the Rocket set coming out soon. But having this many people buy it I'm pretty sure I drilled it down to 3 months, which isn't shown here. It's about a 3-day period where it sold quadruple what it normally does, maybe even like 10 times what it normally does. It's a pretty absurd amount where it's going from about 15 to 20 per day, or not per day, but per 3 week, I guess. And then it goes up to like an insane 100. That's, kind of crazy to me without some sort of influence. But now it's sitting at about $60 for a regular full art trainer that no one really gave a shit about. So I'm just saying, a little bit crazy. Maybe some max stupid going on if people start buying around here. But that's what this market's about. Hey, we just buy. Who cares? So you saw a little bit of a preview earlier. We got Umbreon Gold Star next. This is from Celebrations. And Celebrations is one of those sets had huge pull rates. You can pull a ton of great cards out of this set. Within maybe 2 to 3 ETBs, you'll have most of the set. Maybe missing 1 or 2 of the really rare cards. So this Gold Star Umbreon, justifiably should be worth something. It was worth about $15. When it first released, yes, it was like 30-ish. But we're seeing it now because of the hype of Umbreon at about $55. Which is just crazy, because this is a 3-month breakdown, and just at the beginning of the year, somebody decided to buy 50 in a 3-day period. Is that normal? No. Is that what happened? Yes. And guess what? The market had to follow because the supply suddenly had a sharp decrease. So what's going to happen? Oh, the price is going to go up because, there's less people to actually be there and supply to the demand, because Umbreon is in demand because it is the big chase Pokemon. So, crazily enough, this card that was pretty easy to pull is at $55. And you can see 1 month breakdown. Yes, there are 2 massive spikes. This is 1 month, so this is a 2-day period where it sold 35 in 1 day and 32-ish in 1 day. Does that not scream somebody manipulating to you? To me it does. But you could be a little bit more careful with your words. I think it is a buyout for sure. They see, okay, there's not that much supply, we can buy it out. Because there was max 500 cards of these in TCG Player, and if anything, it could be lower. So seeing a buyout is not that crazy. Next, Persian, and I think this is the craziest pump of all time. Okay, to be honest, an absurd card. This is an illustration rare, which means your average is about 1 every 3 to 4 packs of Shrouded Fable. And Shrouded Fable itself is such an undesirable set. Nobody wanted this set for months after release. This is a specialty set, maybe the most unsuccessful specialty set in a long time, and it was sitting below MSRP on an ETB at about $35 forever. And suddenly, in the last week, this Persian has gone from a lowly $30-ish card to all the way up to $70. And it makes no sense because this card was completely not looked at all. And suddenly everyone's like, oh my god, we have to buy. Just absurdity. Max stupid, in my opinion. Next, we have the Pheasantipity, the same set, Shrouded Fable. Not a well-selling set. And this is the special illustration rare. This is an average of 1 in every 20 or so packs. maybe more than that. It's much rarer, and it was about $75 when it released. It's slowly gone down and down and down, but now this Persian, this Persian is simply more valuable than this Fenzedipede, which should be much more difficult to pull by a long shot. And for some reason, this card is more expensive. If that is not suspicious, I don't know what is. I know people are saying, oh my god, it's Persian, it's a pretty nice art, he's looking in the mirror, and with the Team Rocket set, this will go perfectly with my Giovanni. Great. Sounds good. I don't really care. This is not natural. This is not how it should be. Yeah, I just think it's absurd. Don't buy at these prices. I'll sit by it. Fezandipity, if you like this Pokemon, which, I mean, yes, it's not the most popular Pokemon, but it is the chase card from the set. In person, this card is pretty nice, to be honest. But, you know, for some reason, this Persian, which is 4 or 5 times easier to pull, guess what? It's right there. So, either way, that moves on to the next topic. Over-speculation. And I don't think this was really a big thing prior, but you'll see a lot of over-speculation is occurring, and I think I only have one slide for this, which is this. Umbreon and Sylveon at absurd prices. Absurd. $1,500 for this Umbreon EX from Prismatic. Yes, the supply is down because, you know, one thing I'll note about Prismatic is it did not follow the trends of typical sets. Generally, sets will release, and they will release on release day on Pokemon Center, and it did not. So I think the supply is a bit low, but I'll get into why I think that in a little bit. Either way, $1,500 for this card is crazy, considering Umbreon VMAX, which I think looks just as good, if not nicer, is literally the same price sometimes. You can find that card for $1,500, and you can find this card for $1,500. It doesn't make sense. This card just released. Evolving Skies is not in print, so I have no idea why they're the same value, besides people basically saying, I mean, I might as well just list it at $1,500 because everyone's going to buy eventually, and if I just drop the price, let's say I sell it for $1,400, oh, someone's buying that instantly. Now, someone is probably going to go send that over to PSA and try and get a PSA 10, I'm sure, because PSA 10s make you money, but I think that's absurd. Either way, next one, Sylveon EX. I think this card looked great. It's $500 though, which is generally the price of a chase card from another set. So the overvaluation of these sets is just crazy. I mean, yes, Prismatic ETBs go for double the price, so you'd expect, okay, the second chase card to go for double the price, but if that doesn't really follow the trend of most sets, you know, Latios, from Surging Sparks is the second most valuable in that set, and it was sitting at about $100 on release. Would it sit at $500? I don't think so. I mean, I think now it might be going for $200. I'm not entirely sure, but definitely not this crazy. And yes, it's rare. I know the pull rates are bad, but $1,500 is crazy. Evolving Skies has famously bad pull rates, and that card was nowhere near as expensive. So where is it headed? I think it's important to note limits will happen. And this is one of the examples. GameStop is going to be limiting their Blooming Waters to 2 per person, and they're calling out Costco in the same time. Cool. I think that's normal. You know, that's what's going to happen. It's just too crazy right now. You need to set limits. And yes, that puts more pressure on the workforce, but this has happened before. 2021, collectible cards limited to 2 per guest per day, no exceptions. This was in Targets. This was in Best Buys. This was in other stores as well in 2021. They put in limits because they were like, we're just getting bought out, and people are reselling this stuff like crazy. Okay, so they're going to put in limits. That was not enough. That was not enough. In 2021, it was not enough. What they did instead was they just stopped selling it in stores, and they put it purely online. Because they said, this is stupid. Why are we risking our employees' safety and potentially having people try and steal stuff if, you know, we list these Pokemon cards or put them on our shelves? So they did the justifiable thing and just stopped stocking Pokemon, which I don't want it to get to that point. I like being able to go to the supermarket or go to this Target and you know, find something to crack open, you know. You know that I crack open product because I do it all the time. And right now, I think the last thing I saw was that fall collector's chest and the Cleavor thing. And Guess what? The Cleavor thing was pretty desirable to me because there's nothing else, and it ended up being a resealed product. And that's the kind of doubt. And I'm seeing comments on that video, and I'm a very small channel, but getting 3 people to comment separately that they all experienced the same thing I did just should show to you that that product is resealed and fraudulent, but people are forced to buy into it because they just think they have no other options if they want to open up some product. So, be careful with your money, but that's the kind of fear that will drive people out of the hobby. Because, hey, I just opened up a product, it's a sham. Why am I even here if it's a sham? I wanted to actually open up some really real legit product. For anyone who's hearing that and does have their fears, I'll give you one tip of advice. If it hasn't showed up directly in Pokemon companies, marketing, or shown up on the Pokemon Center website, it is most likely not guaranteed to be legitimate as a product. Just a disclaimer I have to put out there. Now, we're going to move on to another big part of this whole issue, which is the Pokemon Company. Now, am I going to say that they're doing everything wrong? No, this is an absurd situation that happened kind of out of nowhere. I mean, Surging Sparks, after Surging Sparks, yes, they could have maybe responded quickly, but you can only move so fast when you have to print millions of cards. So, let's go back in the past. This is February 2021. I know it says 1 year ago, but just know this statement was updated a year ago, so it actually lists a year ago. But this same statement was made all the way back then after Vivid Voltage's release, which Vivid Voltage we'll get into, very similar to what's happening now. Basically, yeah, we're aware of some fans have difficulty purchasing TCG products and have high demand. We're going to be going into maximum capacity to support this increased demand. And if you know anything, they made a statement very similarly. But let's take a look quickly at Vivid Voltage and what this statement actually had a impact on. So you saw here the interest over time. Vivid Voltage were released in 2020 November, and people could not find any product of this sort till about March, April-ish, when Vivid Voltage started coming back to shelves for the most part. But you could see there was a sharp decline in that period where there was actual product. Guess what? I expect something similar. Either way, here we go. Vivid Voltage. Obviously, the chase card is this giant, we call him Rainbow Chonkachu. Very hard card to pull. Probably the only hit in the set, really. And it was going for about $400 to $600 on release. Does that sound familiar? And now it goes for about $110 to $120. So a sharp decline over time. And then you have the booster box. This released, I said around 180. It's about 200 on release, after it stabilized a bit. It stabilized at 200. And then after reprints, it was about $100 to $120 for years. I mean, this chart's a little hard to read because it's so scaled out, but 100 is right this line here. And it was sitting at around that 100 to 125 mark for years, and no one wanted to buy it until just recently. It's now at 170-ish after a bunch of people are FOMOing over this product being on Pokemon Center. It was on Pokemon Center for 4 years. 4 years, and it just randomly sold out last week because everyone's like, oh, Vivid Voltage will never be available again, which is true, but it's not a desirable set. It is not. It has one chase card, and yes, it'll be fun to pull that one chase card, but besides that, the value's just not there if you've looked at this set at all. So, not the most valuable thing in the world. So, just a little bit of a warning here. Now, Surging Sparks, another set with a Chase Pikachu. Another set that's right in the heat of an extremely popular era for Pokemon cards. It's going for, guess what, about $400 to $600. Does that seem familiar? Isn't that weird? And then you have the booster box. Released. Came out around 180. Now it's stabilized about 200 for a bit. And then it went up even more. $200 on release. Everyone calling it crazy. And by the way, this is after the MSRP update that came with Scarlet and Violet. Booster boxes used to MSRP for $140. Now they do $161. So it was at 200 for Vivid Voltage, so you could say the hype was there when the MSRP was even lower. Okay, now it's stabilized around 235, but I'd like to make the note here that there's a very low sale volume above 235. I think that's the upper limit of this booster box right now, at least for a couple years. And people know reprints are coming as well, and people are still buying at 220, and I think it's absurd. There is no way that if they already... People are getting allocations for the Surging Sparks re-release. We don't know if it's a re-release or a reprint, but either way, people are getting allocations soon, and I think people are trying to sell out. They're trying to exit on Surging Sparks, at least until they can re-enter when the price goes down. But 235 is about where it is, and if they print the hell out of this like they say they will, I think it could follow a very similar trend of Vivid Voltage. I think this Pikachu is nicer than the Chonkachu, I will give it that. So I don't think it will be nearly as low as Rainbow Chonkachu over the long run. I think it may go down to 200-ish, if I had to guess. Because there is permanent damage to the hobby's pricing after this wave, I'm sure. Everything's just going to be more expensive from now on. It will never go back down to the prices from before, but it will also not stay this high. I guarantee that. But yeah, so I'm just saying Surging Sparks could follow a very similar trend. Now, this moves on to the statement in January about Prismatic Evolutions. We're exact same starter. May experience difficulty purchasing this product due to high demand impacting availability. We want to print more at maximum capacity. Okay. Now, this takes me to Prismatic Evolutions, which is the real, talking point. Obviously, right now it's stabilizing around $100 per box. It was originally for $120-ish for quite a while, and then now it's starting to come back down a little bit already. And this is because, take this with a grain of salt. This is just a theory. I think Pokemon Center or Pokemon Company is holding on to product, because generally when a set releases, it goes on to Pokemon Center on the same day that the set is supposed to release. But this time, there were none. I think what they're doing is they're holding all their stock till they can reprint more and then flood it all onto the market at once, so that everybody who wants to get this product can get the product. Because Pokemon Company likes money. You know this. Everyone knows this. They like money. And guess the best way to make money is to just flood the entire market when the demand is high and the supply is low. So if they hold their product and then just flood it all at once, they're going to make so much money. They don't care. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think a lot of people are going to get burned who are sitting on this product thinking, oh my god, we're going to the moon. We're already seeing that the premium collection that's going to come out is coming out with 13 packs. If they print the hell out of that as well, trust me, this set is going down. For sure. So that's at least my kind of word of warning. So if you want to sell your product, sell it now when people are desperate. Because it's not going to stay that way. Because we've seen this before, and yes, people have their doubts. Oh, why would Pokemon Company not be printing at this high of a rate before? And it's so obvious to me why they wouldn't. Because the Pokemon cards were not selling last year. They weren't, because they had enough supply in the market. They didn't need to push out extra reprints of things because there was just enough. But now there isn't, and I think they're going to make full advantage of that going forward into this one. Now, I have one final call to action. This is going to get into a bit of a personal opinion. To me, it's clear. The one thing that everyone should do if you're a normal average collector or consumer or deck builder or anything, just wait. There is a lot of power in being able to wait in a market, because it'll time out people. And this is what I mean in this bottom statement. Even if the reprints don't work, people holding inventory with plans for a quick flip will have to exit. Why is that? Because people are leveraging things like credit card debt. People are leveraging things like, advances and stuff like this. Stuff that generally is fine if things keep moving forward, but if people start defaulting on their debt, or they're using a 0% APY card to fund this Pokemon kind of fire, they're going to have to, they're forced to exit their strategy and kind of dump all their product on the market because they need to make sure that they stay within the good graces. I think that they should be very careful going forward, because if the reborns do work, they're also screwed. So I think if everyone just decides, hey, it's time to wait, hold out, we're going to see what the reprints do, you'll end up with a much better look than anything prior. And that's what I'm doing. I'm waiting. I have my cards that I like, and I have a couple cards I wanted to pick up before I think they go out of go completely crazy. So I did pick up some cards, you know, stuff like this Flareon EX from Radiant Collection. I have a feeling that somebody at some point is gonna pump them, you know, or maybe this Mega Gardevoir EX, you know, or maybe this Umbreon V. I picked all these up in anticipation for what was going to happen, but right now I have not bought a Pokemon card in weeks, because it's just too crazy. And I think other people should do the same. I have product I can open, which is a little bit fortunate for me, but I have other hobbies I can go to, and the similar thing happened in 2021. I think if you wait, it can only be to your benefit. The prices are just that crazy. But either way, that's all I got for this video. It's a bit of a long one, maybe like 35 minutes-ish. If you liked, please like and subscribe. I mean, this one took a bit more work than normal, just because it's a much more rigid kind of format, and I wanted to make sure it was pretty comprehensive to the current market. And yeah, if you liked it, definitely stay tuned, because there's be more to come of this content and my other content. If you want to go check that out, that would be greatly appreciated. But that's been it from me. I got nothing else to say. Golden Gad out.